The skies darkened over New Angeles as the massive ships entered the atmosphere. Calix Vorn, supreme overseer of the Drelkin Empire, gazed upon the sprawling metropolis below with a mix of contempt and anticipation. These primitive humans would make excellent slaves for the glory of Drelka. Status report, Calix demanded, his 7 eyes blinking in rapid succession. First Officer Zixtera approached, her exoskeleton clicking against the metallic floor. My lord, our scans indicate a population of 12 million in this urban center alone. Minimal defenses detected. They appear woefully unprepared. Calix's mandibles twitched in what passed for a smile among his species. Excellent. Commence the subjugation protocol. Down on the streets below, chaos erupted as the first wave of Drelkin shock troops materialized. Their segmented bodies towered over the fleeing humans, energy weapons unleashing crackling bolts of blue lightning that incapacitated everything they touched. Amidst the pandemonium, Jasper Blackwood, a grizzled dockworker, ducked into an alleyway. His calloused hands gripped a length of rusted pipe, a pathetic weapon against the alien invaders, but it was all he had. As screams echoed through the concrete canyons of the city, Jasper's mind raced. This can't be happening, he muttered, peering around the corner to see a group of humans being herded into a shimmering energy field. What the hell do these things want? His question was soon answered as a booming voice filled the air, emanating from the largest of the hovering ships. Humans of Earth, we are the Drelkin Empire, your new masters. Resistance is futile and will be met with severe punishment. Submit yourselves for processing and assignment. Your labor will bring glory to Drelka and purpose to your meaningless lives. Jasper's grip tightened on his makeshift weapon, knuckles turning white. Like hell we will, he growled. Suddenly, a hand grasped his shoulder. Jasper whirled, ready to strike, only to find himself face to face with Zara Nix, his union representative from the docks. Jasper, thank God you're alive. Zara's dark eyes blazed with a mixture of fear and determination. We need to get to the Union Hall. Now! The hall? Are you crazy? We need to find weapons or dash. Zara cut him off. Trust me, if we're going to have any chance against these things, we need to organize. And fast. As they sprinted through back alleys and side streets, dodging patrols of the insectoid invaders, Jasper couldn't shake the feeling of utter helplessness. How could humanity possibly stand against such advanced technology? They arrived at the battered Union Hall to find it already buzzing with activity. Dock workers, factory employees, and even a few white-collar types huddled in small groups, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Oren Takeda, the head of their local chapter, stood atop an overturned crate. His usually immaculate suit was torn and smudged with soot, but his voice rang out clear and strong. Listen up, everyone. I know we're all scared. I know this seems impossible, but we've faced impossible odds before. When the Megacorps tried to strip away our rights, did we give up? No. When they brought in strikebreakers, did we back down? And a murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Jasper felt a spark of something. Not quite hope, but maybe the first embers of defiance. Oren continued, his voice growing in intensity. These alien bastards think they can just show up and enslave us? Well, they're about to learn a lesson that every tyrant throughout history has learned the hard way. When the workers unite, there's nothing we can't overcome. A cheer went up from the assembled crowd. Jasper found himself joining in, his earlier despair giving way to a grim resolve. Zara leaned in close, her voice barely audible above the noise. This is just the beginning, Jasper. We're going to need every trick we've learned over the years. Every tactic, every act of solidarity. Jasper nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. Slowdowns, work stoppages, sabotage. If these Drelkins wanted slaves, they were in for one hell of a surprise. As the impromptu meeting broke into smaller planning groups, Jasper couldn't help but smile. It wasn't much, a few hundred workers armed with nothing but their wits and centuries of labor struggle behind them. But it was a start. The Drelkin Empire had no idea what they'd just stepped into. They wanted to enslave humanity? Well, Humanity was about to teach them the power of collective action. And up in his command ship, blissfully unaware of the resistance brewing below, Calyx Vorn dreamed of the riches and glory that Earth's new workforce would bring to Drelka. He had no idea that his empire's greatest challenge wasn't going to come from advanced weapons or military might, but from something as simple as workers standing together and saying one word. No. The acrid stench of ozone and fear hung heavy in the air as Jasper Blackwood trudged alongside hundreds of other newly processed workers towards the massive Drelkan labor camp on the outskirts of New Angeles. His wrists chafed against the energy cuffs, a constant reminder of their new status as slaves to an alien empire. "Keep moving, meat," barked a Drelkan overseer, its mandibles clicking in irritation. Jasper bit back a retort, remembering Zara's words from their clandestine meeting. "Play along." For now. As they entered the sprawling compound, Jasper's eyes widened. What had once been Central Park was now a hive of activity. Massive excavators tore into the earth, while swarms of human laborers toiled under the watchful eyes, all 7 of them, of their insectoid masters. "By the stars, look at the efficiency." Calyx Vorn's voice boomed from a hovering platform. The Drelkan Supreme Overseer surveyed his new domain with undisguised glee. Who would have thought these primitive bipeds could be so productive? Beside him, First Officer Zixtera shifted uncomfortably. "My lord, I must express some concern. The humans seem to be adapting too quickly to their new roles. It's unsettling." Calyx waved a dismissive appendage. "Nonsense. They simply recognize the superiority of Drelkan rule. Now, show me the mineral extraction site." As the overseers herded the new arrivals towards the processing center, Jasper caught sight of a familiar face. Oren Takeda, the union leader, was barely recognizable in the grimy work uniform. But there was no mistaking the fire in his eyes as he gave Jasper the briefest of nods. The next few days passed in a blur of backbreaking labor and meager rations. But beneath the surface of apparent submission, a current of resistance was building. Whispered conversations in the barracks, meaningful glances exchanged during shift changes. The seeds of rebellion were being sown. On the 5th day it began. Jasper was operating a massive drilling rig when he heard the first shouts. "Malfunction! Machine failure!" The cry echoed across the work site, picked up by voice after voice. Within minutes, every piece of heavy equipment had ground to a halt. Drelkan overseers buzzed about in confusion, their mandibles clicking furiously. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Subcommander Vexlar, stomping towards Jasper's station. Jasper adopted his most innocent expression. "So sorry, sir. These Earth machines, they're just so temperamental. Must be all this alien atmosphere, you know?" Vexlar's compound eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Fix it. Now." "Oh, we'll get right on that," Jasper assured him. "Might take a while, though. Have to diagnose the problem, requisition parts, you understand." Across the compound, similar scenes played out. Machines mysteriously broke down. Tools went missing. Simple tasks suddenly became incredibly complex, requiring hours of explanation and clarification. In the command center, alarms blared as production metrics plummeted. Calyx Vorn's carapace turned an alarming shade of purple as he raged at his subordinates. What is happening down there? How can an entire workforce become incompetent overnight? Zixtera cleared her throat nervously. "My lord, I believe we may be dealing with something called a work slowdown. It's a primitive form of resistance, where dash. I don't care what it's called." Calyx roared. "Fix it." But fixing it proved easier said than done. For every problem the Drelkans thought they solved, 3 more sprung up in its place. Quotas were missed, deadlines ignored, and the once efficient operation descended into chaos. As night fell, Jasper slipped away from his bunk and made his way to a hidden meeting spot deep in the twisting warren of half-finished tunnels. There he found Zara, Oren, and representatives from every work group in the camp. Oren's face was grim but satisfied. "Phase 1 is complete. We've shown them that we won't be docile little worker drones. But this is just the beginning." Zara nodded, her voice low and intense. "Tomorrow we escalate. We hit them where it really hurts, their precious supply chain. A murmur of excitement rippled through the gathered rebels. Jasper felt a surge of pride and determination. They might be outgunned and overpowered, but humans had centuries of experience in fighting oppression. The Drelkins were about to learn that there's more than one way to win a war. As the meeting broke up, Jasper caught Zara's arm. "Do you really think this will work?" he asked, voicing the doubt that gnawed at him in the quiet hours. Zara's eyes blazed with conviction. "It has to, because if we fail, it's not just us who suffer. It's every human on Earth, and who knows how many other species these bastards have enslaved. We have to win, Jasper. Not just for us, but for everyone they've ever hurt." Jasper nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. As he made his way back to the barracks, carefully avoiding Drelkin patrols, he allowed himself a grim smile. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin, and the Drelkin Empire was about to learn a painful lesson. You can't enslave a species that has spent its entire history fighting against oppression. The aliens wanted obedient workers. Instead, they were about to face the full fury of a united human resistance. And Jasper Blackwood, former dockworker turned revolutionary, would be right there on the front lines. The pre-dawn air was thick with tension as Jasper crouched in the shadows of a half-constructed Drelkin communications tower. His heart pounded in his chest, a rhythmic counterpoint to the distant hum of alien machinery. "Now!" Zara's voice crackled through the crude earpiece they'd cobbled together from scavenged parts. Jasper sprang into action, his fingers flying over the exposed circuitry of the tower's base. Years of electrical work on the docks had prepared him for this moment. Across the labor camp, similar scenes unfolded. Oren led a team disabling the mineral processing plant. Mira, a former software engineer, worked her magic on the Drelkin's computer systems. Hundreds of small acts of sabotage, precisely coordinated, struck simultaneously. The result was spectacular. Alarms blared as systems crashed. Lights flickered and died. The massive excavators ground to a halt, their Drelkin operators buzzing in confusion and rage. In the command center, Supreme Overseer Calyx Vorn's exoskeleton trembled with fury. "What is the meaning of this?" he roared, all 7 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. First Officer Zixtera's antennae drooped. "My lord, it appears to be a coordinated attack on our infrastructure. The humans have dash." "Impossible," Calyx interrupted. "They are nothing but primitive slaves. How could they possibly dash?" His tirade was cut short as the main view screen flickered to life. The face that appeared was unmistakably human, but the fire in those eyes sent a shiver through even the hardened Drelkin leadership. "Attention, Drelkin oppressors," Zara's voice rang out, clear and defiant. "We, the United Earth Labor Front, hereby serve you notice. Your reign of exploitation ends now." Calyx sputtered in incoherent rage, but Zara continued undeterred. "For too long, you've treated sentient beings as disposable resources. No more. We demand fair treatment, safe working conditions, and recognition of our basic rights. Until these demands are met, this planet's resources stay in the ground. Its factories stand idle. Its people united against you." The screen went dark, leaving the Drelkin command center in stunned silence. Back in the hidden rebel base, a network of maintenance tunnels beneath the labor camp. Cheers erupted as Zara ended the transmission. Jasper swept her up in a bear hug, his face split by a wide grin. "We did it," he exclaimed. "Did you see their faces? They had no idea what hit them." Oren's voice cut through the celebration, grim but determined. "This is just the beginning, folks. They'll strike back hard. We need to be ready." He wasn't wrong. Within hours, Drelkin shock troops swarmed through the camp, rounding up suspected ringleaders. But for every rebel they captured, 2 more seemed to take their place. The spark of resistance had ignited a wildfire. Days turned into weeks. The Drelkins' once efficient operation devolved into chaos. Production quotas plummeted. Supply lines were disrupted. And through it all, the message of the United Earth Labor Front spread. It started with whispers among the workers. Then, Incredibly, murmurs of discontent from the lower ranks of Drelkin society. Jasper could scarcely believe it when the first Drelkin defector approached them. A young drone named Ninevak, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. "Your words, they resonate," Ninevak chittered nervously. "Many of us, we are also treated as disposable by the Empire. Is there a place for us in your movement?" Zara's response was immediate and firm. "Of course. Solidarity knows no species. Together, we are stronger." As the movement grew, so did its tactics. Work stoppages evolved into full-scale strikes. Sabotage gave way to mass demonstrations. And through it all, the core message remained the same. United, we cannot be defeated. Calix Vorn watched in mounting horror as his control slipped away. Reports flooded in of unrest spreading to other conquered worlds. The once mighty Drelkin war machine was grinding to a halt, crippled by a force they had never anticipated: the power of organized labor. In a desperate bid to regain control, Calix ordered a full military crackdown. Drelkin warships filled the skies, energy weapons primed. But as they prepared to fire on the rebel strongholds, something extraordinary happened. Drelkin ships, one by one, powered down their weapons. On the command frequencies, a chorus of voices rang out. "No more! We stand with the workers." Jasper, watching from a makeshift bunker, felt tears stinging his eyes. Zara gripped his hand, her voice choked with emotion. "Do you see, Jasper? This is what we fought for. Not just for Earth, but for everyone crushed under the boot of oppression." As dawn broke over New Angeles, it illuminated a changed world. Drelkin and humans stood side by side, united in their demand for justice. The great warships hung silent in the sky, transformed from instruments of conquest to symbols of solidarity. The battle was far from over. But in that moment, Jasper knew with unshakable certainty that they would win, because they had tapped into something more powerful than any weapon, more unstoppable than any army. They had shown the universe the true meaning of union. The cavernous hall of the former Drelkin Command Center buzzed with an energy that was equal parts excitement and apprehension. Jasper surveyed the scene with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder, or in some cases, shoulder to thorax, with Drelkin defectors and representatives from a dozen other species previously subjugated by the Empire. "Order! Order, please!" Zara's voice cut through the din. All eyes, compound and otherwise, turned to the makeshift podium. "I call to order the first meeting of the Intergalactic Labor Coalition." A cheer went up, quickly hushed as Zara continued. "We've achieved the impossible, friends. We've brought the Drelkin war machine to its knees. But our work is far from over." Orin stepped forward, his weathered face etched with determination. "Reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Uprisings on Proxima Centauri. General strikes on Tau Ceti. The spark we lit here on Earth has become a wildfire." The assembled delegates murmured in excitement. Jasper felt a swell of emotion in his chest. They had started this fight just hoping to free Earth, and now, Ninevak, the young Drelkin defector who had become one of their staunchest allies, chittered nervously. "But the Empire still controls vast resources. They will not give up easily." "Agreed," Zara nodded, "which is why we need to take this fight to the next level. We're not just fighting for better working conditions anymore. We're fighting to reshape the very fabric of galactic society." The next hours were a whirlwind of planning and debate. Strategies were hashed out, alliances forged, and a bold vision for the future began to take shape. As the meeting adjourned, Jasper found himself approached by Kale Thax, a representative from a silicon-based species he'd never encountered before. "Your Earth methods, they're most intriguing." Kale Thax's crystalline form shimmered as it spoke. "This concept of collective bargaining, it could revolutionize labor relations across the galaxy." Jasper grinned. "That's the idea. No more exploitation, no matter what planet you're from or what kind of atmosphere you breathe." As the delegates dispersed, the real work began. The Intergalactic Labor Coalition spread its message across subspace channels, reaching even the most remote corners of Drelkin-controlled space. Everywhere, workers of all species began to realize their true power. On the Drelkin homeworld of Ziwax Tora, the ruling caste watched in mounting horror as their carefully constructed hierarchy crumbled. Supreme Overlord Vexnath, Calyx Vorn's superior, raged against the reports flooding in. Impossible! How can these primitives be defeating us? We have the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. His aide, trembling, dared to speak. My lord, it seems that fleet is now refusing to follow orders. The labor strikes have spread to our military ranks. Vexnath's mandibles clacked in impotent fury. Then we shall crush them with our economic might, cut off their supplies, starve them into submission. I'm afraid that won't be possible, sir, the aide's voice quavered. The trade guilds have joined the coalition. Our entire economy is grinding to a halt. Back on Earth, the coalition leaders worked tirelessly. Zara coordinated diplomatic efforts, negotiating with species humans had never even imagined. Orin led teams developing new technologies to improve working conditions across diverse environments. And Jasper found himself traveling to world after world, sharing the hard-won wisdom of Earth's labor movements. It wasn't easy. Old hatreds and prejudices didn't disappear overnight. There were setbacks, violent crackdowns by desperate Drelkin loyalists. But with each passing day, the movement grew stronger. The turning point came on a sweltering afternoon 6 months into the revolution. Jasper stood with Zara and Orin in the coalition's war room, watching the main view screen with bated breath. On it, Supreme Overlord Vexnath addressed the galaxy. People of the Drelkin Empire, his voice trembled with barely contained rage. In light of recent developments, I hereby announce the immediate dissolution of the Imperial government. All conquered worlds are granted full autonomy. All workers are to be given full rights as sentient beings. The room erupted in cheers. Jasper felt tears streaming down his face as he embraced his comrades. They had done it. They had actually done it. But Zara's voice cut through the celebration, reminding them all of the challenges still to come. This is a great victory, but it's not the end. Now comes the hard part, building a just and equitable society across the entire galaxy. Jasper nodded, squaring his shoulders. The fight against the Drelkin Empire had been grueling, but in many ways, it had been the easy part. Creating a fair economic system that worked for countless different species across thousands of worlds, that would be the real challenge. But as he looked around at the diverse faces of his comrades, human, Drelkin, and a dozen species he was still learning to identify, Jasper felt a surge of hope. They had accomplished the impossible once. Together, there was nothing they couldn't do. The galactic labor revolution had only just begun, and the universe would never be the same. The gleaming spires of New Harmony stretched towards the azure sky, a testament to what could be achieved when species work together in true equality. Jasper Blackwood, his hair now streaked with gray, stood on the balcony of the Intergalactic Labor Coalition headquarters, marveling at how much had changed in the decade since the fall of the Drelkin Empire. Admiring the view again, old friend? Zara's voice, warm with affection, came from behind him. She joined him at the railing, her once dark hair now silver, but her eyes still blazing with the same passion that had ignited a revolution. Jasper chuckled. Can you blame me? Sometimes I still can't believe we pulled it off. We pulled it off, Zara corrected gently. All of us, together. As if on cue, a delegation of Proximan trade representatives flew by on gravity discs, waving cheerfully. In the streets below, humans mingled freely with a dizzying array of alien species, all going about their daily lives in a society that would have been unimaginable just a few short years ago. Jasper, Zara, Orin's voice crackled through their communication devices. You're needed in the main chamber. The vote is about to begin. They hurried inside, joining the throng of delegates filling the vast circular room at the heart of the coalition headquarters. The chamber hummed with anticipation as representatives from hundreds of worlds took their seats. Ninevak, now a respected elder statesman among the reformed Drelkin society, scuttled over to join them. This is it, he chittered excitedly. The final vote on the Galactic Workers' Rights Accord. Jasper felt a lump form in his throat. This was what they had been working towards for years. A comprehensive agreement that would enshrine labor protections, fair wages, and safe working conditions as fundamental rights for all sentient beings across known space. The chamber fell silent as Kale Thax, their crystalline friend who now served as the Coalition's chief arbiter, took the central podium. Its faceted body sparkled under the lights as it spoke. Esteemed delegates, we stand at a pivotal moment in galactic history. Before us lies the opportunity to ensure that never again will any being, regardless of species or planet of origin, suffer under the yoke of exploitation or oppression. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The journey to this point has not been easy, Kale Thax continued. We have faced resistance, setbacks, and the monumental task of reconciling the needs and cultural norms of countless diverse civilizations. But through it all, we have persevered, guided by our shared commitment to justice and equality. Jasper felt Zura's hand slip into his, squeezing tightly. He glanced around the room, seeing the same mix of hope and determination on faces both familiar and alien. And so, without further ado, I call for the vote on the Galactic Workers' Rights Accord. All in favor. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of eyes in 1,000 different languages and forms of communication. Appendages of all shapes and sizes were raised in unanimous support. The vote is unanimous, Kale Thax declared, its crystalline form vibrating with joy. The accord is passed. The celebration that followed was like nothing Jasper had ever experienced. Species that had once been bitter enemies embraced as friends. Songs of joy in countless languages filled the air. And through it all, Jasper found himself overcome with emotion. As the initial euphoria began to subside, Orin made his way through the crowd to join them. "We did it," he said simply, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We did," Zara agreed. "But our work is far from over. Passing the accord was just the first step. Now we have to make sure it's enforced, that it reaches every corner of the galaxy." Jasper nodded, feeling a familiar fire rekindling in his chest. "You're right, but you know what? I'm not worried, because we've proven that when workers stand together, there's nothing we can't accomplish." As night fell over New Harmony, the celebration continued. But in quiet corners and small gatherings, plans were already being made. Plans to spread the message further, to help fledgling unions on distant worlds, to ensure that the rights they had fought so hard for became a living reality for every being in the galaxy. Jasper found himself on the balcony once more, gazing up at the star-filled sky. Each of those points of light represented new frontiers, new challenges, new opportunities to build a truly just society. A decade ago, they had been slaves, facing a seemingly invincible alien empire. Now, they stood at the dawn of a new era of galactic cooperation and workers' rights. As Jasper Blackwood looked to the future, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Drelkins had wanted to enslave humanity. Instead, humanity had taught the entire galaxy the true meaning of solidarity. And that lesson would echo across the cosmos for generations to come.